Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. Drew's return to the campus of Port Charles has already been shaking things up, but now it looks like his next move could be even more shocking. The man who once prided himself on honor and a sense of justice seems to be pivoting into dangerous new territory, and the target of his strategy may turn out to be none other than Nina. Viewers who have watched Drew endure betrayal, prison time, and strained relationships can sense that his patience is running out, and he's no longer content to sit back and let things unfold naturally. Instead, Drew may be ready to engineer a carefully crafted scheme that not only clears his own path forward, but also leaves Nina holding the bag for a crime that may or may not even be hers. The key event circling all of this is the shooting that's left multiple lives disrupted. This isn't just about bullets or hospital stays. It's about motives, power, and the ripple effect of consequences. Drew has been circling Nina for months, eyeing her as someone who can be blamed, manipulated, or leveraged, especially given the animosity she's earned from many corners of Port Charles. While Nina herself has made a series of questionable decisions, ranging from keeping Sonny's survival a secret to the SEC betrayal, she hasn't always faced the full fallout. That's why Drew's current stance makes sense. In his mind, Nina deserves to finally pay, and if that means pinning the shooting on her, he might be ready to cross the line. When you peel back the layers, what Drew is contemplating isn't just about revenge. It's also about strategy. He knows Nina has few defenders left, especially after Sonny pulled away from her and her so-called family ties have become fractured. Willow tolerates her mother at best and outright resents her at worst. Michael is clear in his disdain. Carly has zero interest in even pretending to make peace. All of this means Drew could easily push the narrative that Nina had reason and opportunity to be behind the shooting. If he plays his cards right, even those who don't fully trust him might buy into the story because it aligns with their own feelings about Nina. The tension rises even further when Willow's perspective is factored into the mix. Willow has tried to strike a delicate balance where Nina is concerned. For a while, she extended olive branches and attempted to see whether her biological mother could truly change. But those efforts have largely blown up in her face. Nina's lies, her selfishness, and her relentless attempts to insert herself into Willow's life have created a deep well of frustration. Even though Willow has moments where she questions whether she should just give up the hostility, the truth is that Nina keeps giving her fresh reasons to pull back. That's where Drew's plan finds fertile ground. Imagine Drew quietly laying out the details for Willow. He doesn't even have to embellish too much. If he hints that evidence might exist pointing toward Nina, Willow's own doubts will fill in the gaps. She wants to see her mother brought down, even if she doesn't admit it outright. Drew can count on that. And if Willow begins to subtly voice agreement that Nina being exposed could be a good thing, Drew gains a valuable ally. Having Willow's tacit approval, or at least her lack of resistance, gives Drew cover. No one will accuse him of going rogue if Nina's own daughter isn't pushing back. The real question is how far Drew is willing to take this. A simple suggestion isn't enough to frame someone for a serious crime like a shooting. He would need tangible evidence. Perhaps he's already thinking of planting something, an item that connects Nina to the crime scene, a doctored timeline that makes her look guilty, or even a witness who can be persuaded to adjust their memory in exchange for favors. Drew isn't a natural liar, but his recent experiences have hardened him. Prison time changed his outlook. Being betrayed by someone close hardened his resolve. Watching Carly suffer because of Nina only added fuel. Now, Drew is prepared to fight dirty if that's what it takes. Of course, framing Nina isn't without risk. If he overplays his hand and the truth comes out, Drew could find himself right back behind bars. Worse, he could destroy what little credibility he has left with the people he cares about. Sam might never forgive him. Carly might look at him differently, questioning whether he's become too much like the people he once despised. Even Willow, despite her complicated feelings, might recoil if she discovers she was manipulated into helping smear her mother. Drew would have to walk a fine line, ensuring that everything looks organic rather than orchestrated. That's part of what makes this storyline so compelling, because it's not just about whether he can pull it off, but whether he can live with himself afterward. From Nina's side, the storm clouds are already gathering. She senses hostility from all directions, and she knows her standing in Port Charles is crumbling. If she becomes aware that Drew might be setting her up, she'll fight tooth and nail to protect herself. Nina has always been resourceful, especially when cornered. If Drew tries to plant evidence, she might catch on. If he tries to persuade others of her guilt, she could counter with her own narrative. Nina isn't the type to take accusations quietly. She strikes back, often with desperation. That could mean exposing secrets Drew doesn't want revealed, or it could mean pulling Sunny back into her orbit by painting herself as the victim. Nina's survival instinct is strong, and it would be a mistake to underestimate her. But the deeper irony here lies with Willow. For so long, she's tried to reconcile the idea of having a mother she never asked for. She's struggled with the concept of forgiveness, loyalty, and whether blood ties actually mean anything. And yet, when push comes to shove, Willow might find herself silently rooting for Nina's downfall. Not because she relishes her mother's pain, but because she wants freedom. Freedom from the pressure, the guilt, and the constant tug-of-war. If Nina goes down for something like the shooting, Willow can breathe easier. She can stop trying to play the peacemaker and finally wash her hands of the woman who has brought her so much grief. That's why Drew's plan is dangerous. It exploits not just evidence and motives, but emotions. The longer this plays out, the more entangled everyone becomes. Michael will naturally back Willow's stance. Carly will quietly encourage Drew, even if she doesn't fully grasp what he's doing. Sam might have lingering suspicions but could be distracted by her own problems. Sunny is the unpredictable element. If he believes Nina is guilty, he may finally sever the last ties binding him to her. But if he sees her as a victim, he could swing hard in the other direction, throwing all his power and resources behind her defense. That's the wild card Drew will have to account for, because Sunny's influence can either make or break the scheme. At the heart of it all is a question of justice versus revenge. Drew wants to right what he perceives as wrongs, but in doing so, he risks becoming something darker. Nina may not be innocent, but framing her for something she didn't do creates new layers of deceit and manipulation. And in Port Charles, secrets never stay buried for long. If Drew's fingerprints are found anywhere on this plan, he could lose everything he's built since his return. His relationships, his freedom, his reputation, they're all on the line. And yet, for Drew, the temptation might be too great. He's tired of watching Nina wriggle out of accountability. He's tired of seeing Carly targeted while Nina escapes serious consequences. He's tired of Willow suffering under the weight of Nina's constant drama. In Drew's mind, perhaps framing Nina isn't just about payback, it's about restoring balance. But whether he's justified or not, the line he's preparing to cross will change everything. This storyline isn't about whether Nina is guilty of pulling a trigger. It's about whether Drew is guilty of losing his own moral compass. It's about Willow quietly confronting the ugly truth that part of her wants her mother to fall. It's about the dangerous games people play when they believe the ends justify the means. And as all of these threads collide, the fallout promises to reshape relationships across the board. What happens when Willow realizes she played a role in helping Drew corner her mother? What happens if Nina uncovers the plot and turns the tables? What happens if Sunny becomes the deciding factor, torn between old loyalties and new realities? These are the questions that will keep Port Charles on edge. Because in the end, whether Nina is guilty or innocent of the shooting, the real story is how far Drew is willing to go to make sure she takes the fall, and how much Willow is willing to silently endorse her mother's takedown. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for all of your updates.